The Tom Holland Spider-Man movies are good movies. They're entertaining and fun. You like Tom Holland, you like Michael Keaton, you like Jake Gyllenhaal. With films from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you have the forgettable side and the slightly more impressionable side, and these films reside in the latter region. The film finishes and you feel like you've had a decent time. Not a spectacular time, not a profound time, just a good time. A pleasurable, laid-back ride. For as much as I enjoy these films, among other Marvel Studio entries, they aren't utilising the full capacity of creative storytelling. Each film is a game of tug and war between producer and director. They begin as a tried and tested template of a safe and marketable story structure. Inciting incident here, first battle there, quirky joke over here, mid-battle right over there, another meme-related joke here, then right after Thor asks what a TikTok is, we'll have the explosive final battle there. They hire talented directors, usually from the independent film scene, to add some flair to the formula. The best Marvel films occur when the flair supersedes the formula. My favourite of the bunch is Guardians Volume 2, which is just a ridiculous movie with a loose-ass structure, but just has the biggest fucking heart imaginable. This raccoon and this blue guy have more character than all of these banal arseholes. With Homecoming and Far From Home, I'd say the flair chiefly comes from Holland, Keaton and Gyllenhaal. The directing is sorely lacking. In fact, they're some of the blandest looking summer blockbusters of the 2010s. Because these films are so heavily reliant on the performers, the worlds they inhabit can scarcely be called worlds. None of the locations feel lived in. They all feel like they've been perfectly picked out by a producer. The blandest looking high schools, the blandest looking suburbs. There's nothing natural or cinematic about them. I wouldn't say it was a problem with set design, more so the absence of cinematographic flavour. No interesting lighting or camera angles, not even any unique colour grading. Everything exterior of Spider-Man himself feels dead. The Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies of the 2000s, starring Tobey Maguire, embody the complete contrast to this flaw. Those films breathe personality, both with the singular characters and the world around them. There isn't a constant race to get to the next important story beat. The film just flows the way it wants to. You're watching a story about a young adult trying to balance his superhero life with his ordinary life, and that concept is given the freedom to unfold at its own pace, delivering the audience a substantive and fully fleshed out journey. Spider-Man 2, the high point of the trilogy, is an exceptionally balanced slice of life film, interweaving a multitude of authentic emotions. Charming corny action, humorous dialogue and subplots intertwined with introspective and heartfelt character arcs. There are multiple scenes throughout the trilogy that I know for a fact would not be allowed to exist in a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. Scenes such as Peter confessing his indirect involvement in Uncle Ben's death to Aunt May. It's very simplistic and slow with no music, just subtle framing and brilliant acting. The raindrops keep falling on my head montage. Otto Octavius grinding the whole film to a halt to tell this joke.
Before we start, has anybody lost a large roll of $20 bills in a rubber band? Because we found the rubber band. It's a terrible joke.
The fucking chocolate cake scene.
Would you like a piece of chocolate cake?
Okay.
Peter trying to romance MJ with poetry and it not working because he got the advice from Otto, who it obviously worked for because his wife was studying English literature at university, so she'd obviously have a leaning toward poetry.
I've been reading poetry lately.
Whatever that means.
Day by day, he gazed upon her. Day by day, he sighed with passion. Day by day...
Don't start.
What a fucking idiot.
This magnificent surgery scene where Raimi reminds us of his skill as a horror director. So many brilliant examples. Little moments that only occur in films as a result of having a personable artist at the helm.
Go, Spidey, go!
All of the New York citizens have their own personality and quirks, down to the last extra. The wrestling match promoter, who only gives him $100 even though the ad said 3,000.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
The guy who yells, "He just stole that guy's pizza!" Peter's nagging tenant and his socially awkward yet relentlessly sweet daughter. J. Jonah Jameson, the best character of the whole trilogy, portrayed immaculately by J.K. Simmons. So goddamn good Marvel brought him back. Everyone else at the Daily Bugle. Jameson's secretary and assistant, who are much more respectful towards Peter. Hoffman, the office imbecile, played by Ted Raimi. The New Yorkers on the bridge who throw rocks at the Green Goblin to help Spider-Man.
Leave Spider-Man alone! You got a pick on a guy trying to save a bunch of kids?
I don't don't give a shit if it's cheesy. If it's from the heart, it can be as cheesy as it wants to be. It's better than shit like this. And then you have all of Bruce Campbell's cameos, one of which includes my personal favourite line throughout the entire trilogy.
Come to see the show.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. No one will be seated after the doors are closed.
It's funny in its own goofy little way. It's not forced or quirky for its own sake. Everyone, everywhere, feels like they belong in their given environments. Like they've been there years before we met them and will continue to exist there after the film ends. The New York this Peter Parker inhabits feels like it's taking place around him, not just in the background. People like to compare Joker to Taxi Driver, but I say with zero sarcasm or irony that these Spider-Man films are closer to capturing its own version of New York City with almost the same level of authenticity that Scorsese did in his earlier films. I feel sorry for Peter Parker more than I do Arthur Fleck. These two scenes, funnily enough, run parallel with each other, the Spider-Man version being the optimistic alternative of New York City. Spider-Man is all about bringing hope and joy to New York City, so why shouldn't this be seen as the contrasting companion piece to Taxi Driver, the goofy, innocent perspective of New York crime fighting? It's a city with a pulse. It doesn't come alive when Spider-Man enters the film, it's there already, waiting for him. Remember this montage from the first film, when Spider-Man first starts cleaning up the streets?
Some kind of freaky Lewis something. Wackadoo.
He stinks, and I don't like him.
Guy with 8 hands. Sounds hot.
He has those tights and that tight little
Dresses like a spider, he looks like a bug. We should all just give him one big hug.
The MCU Spider-Man films don't have anything that remotely resembles this level of world building. While both Homecoming and Far From Home are very much comedy movies, they aren't subtle in their execution. While some of it is fairly funny, you can hear the studio voices behind every joke. So here, the music will stop and there'll be an awkward silence, and then someone will say something quippy like, "I need to use the bathroom," or "Bazinga." That'd be really funny because there'd have just been a very dramatic scene right before. Here, they'll act all silly and cute and it'll be a good running gag throughout the whole film. Samuel Jackson threatening to tranquilize Peter's teacher is very funny, I'll admit. The amount of jokes they're throwing at me, it's likely I'm gonna laugh a few times. Not all jokes in films have to hammer the audience over the head, constantly reminding them that they're jokes.
I would totally kiss you, but I think I just threw up in my mouth a little.
I might have a mint.
Laugh, laugh, this is the bit where you laugh. Sometimes funny moments should be more subdued or off in the background. The funniest bits of the Raimi Spider-Man films consist of the characters in the film acting like themselves. They're inherently funny on their own.
Well. Rent?
That's why J. Jonah Jameson verbally abusing Peter Parker never gets grating, compared to the overly calculated comic relief moments of the Marvel films. Even my precious Guardians 2 isn't exempt from this. I'd say that one makes up for it by leaning so hard into the comedic side that it almost becomes farcical. And characters like Rocket and Drax have amusing personalities, hence they're funny just to observe. They don't need to stop the film in its tracks and drop a dab or something.
Damn.
Just as it is with the comedy, the aesthetic and cinematography of these Spider-Man films are abysmally formulated. Every set is the basic stock version of that location. Far From Home is about a goddamn school trip. It has such a wide variety of settings and aesthetics to play with, yet it completely sucks the personality out of Europe. It's all the most generic, popular places of each country. We're in London, where are we gonna go? The Shard, the Tower Bridge, the Tower of London. It's like a scene out of Team America. This is the most boring presentation of Venice I've ever seen. This is why I'm convinced it's more a problem with bland cinematography than sets and locations, because Venice is the antithesis of bland. Homecoming has the same problem with New York. It's just the Marvel version of New York, ergo the generic movie version of New York. Might as well be watching a Michael Bay movie. You might say this isn't important, but Spider-Man and New York have always been as closely linked as Batman and Gotham. It shouldn't be taken for granted. But Batcho, watch this bit. Isn't this funny, unique and specific?
You're that Spider guy on YouTube, right? Call me Spider-Man! Don't flip! Yeah!
No, all that did was remind me that this film's got a hard-on for being modern, relevant and memey. The Captain America detention videos were funny, admittedly. I did chuckle in the cinema when I saw them. Again, they've gone for comedic tones, but they're emulating movies from that genre that are just as drab. They remind me of forgettable comedies from the early 2010s. Back to Guardians 2 again, which has the best cinematography of the entire MCU.
I'm sorry, I'm working real hard here. I gotta do a leaflet drop.
Looks like a fucking ad. You can measure each Marvel film's quality by the percentage of creative control the director was probably given over the film. The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films are great additions to Sam Raimi's catalogue, similar to how the Dark Knight trilogy is to Nolan's. I still enjoy Spider-Man 3 because it takes place in that same distinct world. It's nice to have flaws that come from silly creative decisions rather than, oh look, it's generic and by the numbers and pandering and bland and boring. It's weird because these are pretty fun movies, but they're not awesome movies. Are these going to leave an impression on a young kid's mind the same way classic Spider-Man did on ours? At least on a visual level? I'll always remember the wrestling match, Uncle Ben's overdramatic death, last night I was black! J. Jonah Jameson, Pizza Time, the surgery scene, I'm back, Bruce Campbell, my back. The world of New York is not only its own character, it's one of the most important characters. You don't believe me? Recall the train scene.
He's mine!
You want to get to him, you got to go through me.
And me.
Me too.
What a wonderfully cheesy, heartfelt, collective character moment.
It's good to have you back, Spider-Man.
So when you're next thinking about seeing one of these movies, be it at the cinema or on Disney+, don't settle for something that's only a movie by function. Expect something that's alive, something with its own essence and pulse. How do we do this? How do we make this? You guys fucking can't. These guys can. So stop firing and micromanaging them and take a goddamn risk. Because for as much as people trash Dancing Spider-Man, that's going to be remembered for a good time longer than the drone battle? I can't even remember a goddamn example. That epic moment when an adult criminal says crap.
I know you don't give a crap about anything.
Fuck knows.